Go ahead, Robert, then Barbara.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Greg. It's Robert.
Hey, Robert.
I have a question. I have a client, 32-year-old. She's in her first trimester.
Okay.
And she's dealing with constipation.
Is there nausea?
No.
I mean, the thing with when women are pregnant, I always want to make sure that they're getting enough water. Sometimes like the lack of it could cause constipation, and it also could cause the nausea. But you know, check with the water. But that's also
she's getting enough water. That we're certain of.
Constipation. You said first trimester.
Yes.
Do you have any issues like dry eyes, dry sinuses?
Not that I know of.
Okay. I mean, the complication, I mean, as you know, is the pregnancy. And so, you know, like I kind of don't like to go too crazy with anything, because the pregnancy, you're really treating two people, not just one person. And so this is how I would probably treat it. And you know, you're kind of doing this in a soft way, so it's not going to be like over the top, like, boy, this is going to nail it. We're going to keep nudging it and hoping that something kind of clicks. And there would be two things that I would have her do. One is I'd probably have her just inhale some lemongrass, and not even for a super long period of time, but just like little, you know, maybe 5 to 10 inhalations, not taking it internally, just inhalation. And the idea is that sometimes with the digestive tract, it can get a little wound up, like, you know, a little bit of tension, and hard to go to the bathroom when everything's so wound up. You know, it's possible that the pregnancy is causing it. She could have been predisposed to it prior. Excuse me. And the other thing that I would do that's really soft and gentle is have her take some flax oil. You know, you can get just the seeds and take like a spoonful of seeds and don't chew them. You know, just put them in your mouth and wash them down with water. If she chews them, she'll get them stuck in her teeth. But or she can get like a flax oil gel cap. The flax seeds themselves are the cheapest way to do it, but you can also get a thing of flax oil that you have to keep in the refrigerator, and then, you know, take like a spoonful of it. And the idea is the flax will help lubricate the digestive tract, and sometimes that will do it. Both of those are pretty gentle. You know, I wouldn't want to give her anything internally, especially in that first trimester. Like, you can kind of start fudging a little bit in the last trimester, but in that first one, it's still a little too sketchy. Like, you know, you just want to kind of keep everything as just neutral as possible. And so the flax oil, pretty okay. And the lemongrass, I mean, you're not doing enough to really affect the baby. And so like 5 to 10 inhalations, and she could do it a couple of times, but like give herself a little bit of time, and then go through and do that. But if that doesn't work, you know, maybe email us and let us know so that we can maybe move forward with something else. But I would start real soft like that. See if just that gentle nudging does it. And then if not, we can try stepping it up a little bit. But like, how long is it between bowel movements? Do we know?
She normally goes daily.
Okay, and it's like what, every other day, or?
She had missed it. Let's see, she had been about 36 hours and was extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, I would try with what we're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, there's been times where I've treated people that, it's going almost a week between bowel movements, and that you have to be pretty aggressive about. But
Right. No,
that it's like a day and a half or something, just try this gentle nudge. And the body's going through a lot of changes. There's a lot of hormonal changes and things like that. And so between the lemongrass and the flax, that's a gentle enough nudge in that direction. And if she needs more, especially if it's only been 36 hours, possibly 2 days, that should be enough. And if we
Okay.
need to do a little bit more, we could do it. But what I start doing with pregnant women is I treat them like I'm treating the child, the baby. So I go back to oils that are just for treating children. That way, if there's crossover or the baby's getting impacted, it's still good and neutral for the baby.
Okay.
And so, like, if she needed to do more intense inhalations to like calm down the smooth muscle of the gut and things like that, it's not the best thing to calm down the smooth muscle of the gut, but it would work. And super safe for the baby is just good old-fashioned lavender. Just have her take long, slow, deep breaths with the lavender. That should work. But she's in the first trimester, I would just try the first thing first and see how it goes. And then after that, we can start to troubleshoot. But
Sounds good.
With pregnant women, I just do a lot of gentle little nudges and, call it good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a second client,
Sure. Far away.
former football player. He has MS. His current concern, though, is gout.
Okay. Gout. So got to clean up the kidneys. I mean, we want to reduce some of the spasms as well. So any of the oils for reducing the tension in the body, including oils that are like fascially oriented. So things like any of the different peppers, pepper supreme, viscosity, those are all good, but still using basil, petitgrain, marjoram, and you can actually even rotate them around and just see which one kind of resonates with them a little bit. That it's spasms due to neurological function. Basil tends to work a little bit better, and the peppers seem to work a little bit better. But people can be a little bit different in this arena when you're dealing with something like that. And the tendency is that like stress or stressors can cause flare-ups with MS. And so, I mean, I try doing that as well. But when you're starting to look at things like gout and things of that nature, you're wanting to clean up the joints themselves. It's usually the big toe or some of the toes, but sometimes they'll even get it in their thumbs. And they can actually get it even like in the lower spine and things like that. And so I usually do a couple of things with that. I usually do the Arthracare on the affected joints. That helps break up the deposits in the joints and things like that. And then I follow it up with using something like lovage, like lovage leaf or lovage root. You could use celery or parsley. I usually go to lovage because it's a little bit stronger and it helps to improve the function of the kidneys. And I mean, that's what's happening is there's the crystalline deposits are hitting the joints and they have like these little barbs on them. And so it can be quite painful. And so if there's inflammation in the joint, use something that's anti-inflammatory, like the dark blue oils, like Blue Healer, pain relief and the inflammatory pain relief, something of that nature, or even just some German chamomile or yarrow on the site to calm it down. But a little bit of lovage taken internally helps to flush things out and improve kidney function. And then I usually give them a little bit of galbanum and a little bit of black cumin internally. The black cumin reducing the inflammation and the galbanum just reducing some of the pain. I mean, there's times where gout can be very, very debilitating. And so when it calms down, I actually like to use what is it? Greenland moss. Not so much when they're in a crisis, but like more for prevention, because the Greenland moss impacts the liver quite substantially, but it also impacts the kidneys quite a bit and improves function in both those areas. And the liver being how they process food and things like that, and then still just continuing to clean out and clear out the kidneys. That can be a little bit of a long-term approach. And I don't know if we ever got there's a liver blend that we make. I don't know if we posted it on the site, but it's just real simple blend. It's Greenland moss, helichrysum, and carrot seed. And good for lymphatic function, but it's good for cleaning up the liver, and has a little bit of an impact on pain as well, but more about cleaning up liver function. But first you want to focus on the kidneys and just clean up the kidneys for a while.
And so when you get to the part with Greenland moss, is that internal?
Yeah, that would have to be all internal.
Okay. So,
but I mean, like treatment, I would say that's like 2 months down the line. That's like something to be working towards, not something right now. Right now, reduce the inflammation in the joints, clean up the kidneys, put the arthro care on, but give them the lovage internally. If they don't want to take it internal, several drops of lovage on their wrist at night. It's not quite as strong, but it will still work. And basically you're doing it for the diuretic effect. Basically you're trying to flush out some of the crystalline, the uric acid and things that are depositing in the joints. You're just helping them to like pee it out. And again, another one, make sure they're drinking plenty of water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Good talking with you, Robert.
And then go ahead, Barbara, then Marianne, then Greg.
Hey, Barbara.
Hey there, awesome class this weekend.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed. A little bit different, yeah.
Yeah, I have a little more flexibility in my neck for the first time in I don't know how long.
Yeah, good.
So the third person in my circles had shoulder surgery.
Oh,
and
okay.
still got his arm in a sling. And I mentioned that you had put some things together, and he said, I could tell he was a little hesitant, said he needed to check with his doc.
Sure.
And I'm looking at what's in the kit and wondering, would there be anything in particular specific to a shoulder, or the instructions that come in the kit?
All of that's good for post-surgery, but like when you're dealing with somebody who is already like doesn't have any experience and is already a little bit hesitant and everything, I usually would just say, what's that?
And it has some digestive issues. I don't remember if it's a sluggish gut or bloating or.
Like a lot of times with that, I usually only pick like one or two things and just keep it really super simple. And so do we know what his shoulder surgery was for?
It was rotator cuff.
Rotator cuff injury. Okay, so they didn't say impingement or anything like that. It was just a tear?
He said it wasn't so much from trauma as aging, and didn't offer much more than that.
Okay, so and they probably just scoped it.
It's still in a sling.
Yeah, shoulders and knees can be a little bit finicky with surgeries, and hips on the other hand, man, person's usually walking in a day, maybe not far, but they're walking. But shoulders can be a little bit finicky. I would take something like the blue healer or the pain relief inflammatory. Have them, use it like just in a tonic or an ointment, and rub it on the areas. If the wound's not closed, I'd wait till the wound is closed. And ideally, I would, I'd like to always put people like that on black cumin and galbanum together, but you might be a little bit hesitant about taking black cumin internally. So let's just go to putting that blue healer on topically, and then maybe a couple of drops of galbanum on the wrist, and call it good. So here's the other thing is you can step away from the galbanum for a second. And one of the things that you can use in a situation like this is there's that blend birch complex, and it's the different birches, and it's wintergreen, and it's ginger, and it's all these things. And basically what that does is it's a pain reliever, but it is also reducing the agitation in the body from pain itself. And so you don't even have to put it on the site. He's had shoulder surgery. You could put a couple drops on the wrist and have them rub it together, and it smells very medicinal. Like, it smells very, very medicinal. But I find it a soothing smell, but I mean, there's no doubt that it smells like a pain reliever. The application of that a lot of times will take the edge down. I actually use this sounds funny, but when I'm doing purifications and doing a lot of releasing, like with the PERBA or something like that, at some point the body starts to get a little agitated because there's so much moving or shifting. And I actually use that on my wrist to just let the body relax and let go of whatever's coming out. And so it's not necessarily purifying on its own. It just calms the body down from agitation due to the pain. And so in a situation like this, I'd probably step away from the galbanum, put the birch complex on the wrist, so he doesn't even have to put it on the site. And if he's willing to put something on the area, do like that pain relief, inflammation or inflammatory, I think I called it, or the blue healer, and just call it good. That will bring him substantial relief. Yeah.
Okay.
Like if we were treating somebody like one of you guys that have been through classes, I'd probably give you 6 or 7 things to do. But something like this, I try to just keep it as simple as possible, and just what's the biggest bang for whatever the effort's going to be. And that birch complex, he won't even have to put it on the site for it to work, so that's a good one. That's a plus. And then 2, if he will put it on the site, the other one's going to cut down the inflammation and make him feel pretty good. I mean, always want to do like helichrysum on the scar sites, but that he's doing rotator cuff, most likely he had an impingement or it was arthritic. And so most likely they probably scoped it. So with a scope, there's really not a lot of big incision sites. There's just puncture marks where they go in, and they fill it up with fluid. So there's a lot of fluid and inflammation afterwards that the body needs to disperse. So that pain relief inflammatory or the blue healer is really good for that, because it reduces inflammation, it reduces spasms, and it pushes fluid out of the area. So it's kind of win-win. It'll cut down the pain, it'll soothe the nerves, it'll move some of the fluid, and it will help accelerate the healing process.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Marianne, then Greg.
Hey,
and
Marianne.
Sahaj and-
Hi, I have 2 questions. One being, is tarragon, can you use tarragon too much?
No, it's pretty, are you talking about internal, or are you talking about just inhaling?
Inhaling it.
No, you can go crazy with it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It really takes the bite out of the pain in my shoulder.
Oh,
It
good.
helps me sleep at night. I carry it around in my pocket.
Yeah.
And I'm finding it very useful. I don't know if there are other things I could be or should be using.
Tarragon's a pretty solid choice. I mean, it calms down the response in the body, and it's also antispasmodic, and it's very, very soothing. And so if it's working for you, a lot of times I say don't question it, just lean into it. You know, that's the thing. There's not always just one thing that's going to work. Like sometimes there's multiple things, like especially when we're talking about something like this. Galbanum's always another one that I would look at for
Okay,
something like
I
that.
don't know much about galbanum.
Galbanum's in the frankincense family. It kind of smells a little bit like a weird cousin of frankincense. Like
Okay,
doesn't quite smell as nice as frankincense, but it's still nice. It's a little bit of an acquired taste, not super medicinal, but it's a little bit where you have to get used to it a little bit.
yeah,
You know, kind of like some of the other ones, right?
yeah,
But it does change the pain threshold a little bit, but it does take some of the tension out of the body. But I would say the tarragon is a little bit more soothing to the body systems, not so much specifically for pain, but it deals with like kind of the sensation like that causes shock. You know what I mean? And so it's really working on more of like a level of stress and first stage of stress. And when you're in pain, that is a thing that causes the body a lot of stress. And so I'd say if it's working for you and it's keeping the pain down, let's have you keep doing that. And is it like a spasm? Is it sharp pain? Like what's going on?
it's a chronic pain, and I'm, in the past, I knew that I had an old injury.
Mhm.
But now the pain is often, it almost feels muscular, but it's on both sides. So that has nothing to do with any old injury. If on the left hand side, and the right hand is worse, and sometimes my forearm becomes affected, and this hand, often it's cold, where
Okay.
the other one might not be. So it's like there's
Yeah.
something going on.
Okay. Did you do the class this last weekend?
Okay, yeah. Did I do
Okay.
what?
Let's have you take some of the vetiver and
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not hearing.
let's have you take some of that vetiver ointment. Remember
Oh,
the vetiver
vetiver.
ointment?
Okay,
And then shake it up and then
Yeah.
rub it all in the base of the skull and down the sides of the arms and everything. It's let me think this out for a second. Okay. This is what we'll do. Okay. So you're going to take the marjoram body tonic.
She
Okay.
had a reaction to the magnesium.
Oh yeah, she did. Yeah. Okay, let's have you just do the vetiver for right now. So take
Okay.
the vetiver and all along the base of the skull, down the back of the neck, along the sides of the shoulders right here.
Okay.
And then continue with the tarragon. And I'll reach out to you for something specific for you to do before the vetiver.
Okay.
And let's try to get you feeling better. It sounds like you either have a little bit of a bulge or a thin disc in the neck that's affecting the nerve, and we just need to take some pressure off that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really love the tarragon. I feel like
Yeah,
it's doing
keep up with
other
it.
things.
Yeah,
The spasms in my legs don't happen. I mean, it's rare that it happens at all. And I feel it somehow affects my mood also.
Yeah, it's very soothing to the emotions. Very,
Yeah.
very, very soothing to the emotions. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the okay, so that's the tarragon. The other concern I have is I'm reacting to the environment. And is there an oil that can help me? It's
Is tarragon helping you when that happens?
yes.
That
I
might be
will
why
grab it,
tarragon's working
and-
for you for the body. Is it's actually very soothing. Like I'd say tarragon's better for that than it is for the spasms in the body. It is an antispasmodic, but that's where tarragon really shines. And so
Oh, okay.
I would say that the vetiver still would come into play. If you have a little bit of spikenard, you could put some spikenard on your feet, and then
Okay.
whatever you're using to deepen your breath. Like I can't remember, I think we have you using larch.
Using what?
Larch? Do we have you
No,
using
I
larch?
haven't been using that.
What are you using to deepen your breath? Do
I
you use
don't
anything?
remember. Am I using hyssop for that?
Yeah, hyssop. If you're using hyssop, let's have you use hyssop.
I was concerned because I had come across that
Right.
article that it didn't go with some, I don't know, I can't remember now exactly.
How about let's get her like a little bottle of bronchiols, and then we'll make her marjoram without magnesium in it.
Yeah, Miriam, I'll email you or I'll call you
Yeah.
and we'll get some specifics so I can know what oils you
Oh,
have. and-
terrific.
Yeah, we'll customize it to you.
Okay, I may be gone Thursday and Friday. So just
Okay, I'll just call you tomorrow.
just
We'll reach
leave
out
a
tomorrow.
message if I'm not here. I haven't made my mind up yet, but
Okay.
okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get you feeling better.
Okay. And the workshop was wonderful. I just felt that it was so timely for me, and it was a
good.
wonderful experience. The diarrhea was much, much better on Monday.
Oh, good.
But it was slight still. And now I'm fine.
Okay.
So,
Well, good. Okay. And Samantha will reach out to you tomorrow.
okay, thank you.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Greg, then Saha Chananda, then Robin.
Hey,
Hey,
Greg.
Greg.
Yeah, yesterday was a little bit tumultuous after the weekend. I
Mhm.
noticed a lot of emotions, kind of just strong emotions kind of floating through.
Like what kind of emotions? Give me an idea.
They would have been lower vibration emotions.
But
they're
like
probably-
anger, sadness,
Yeah,
frustration.
more on the anger and bitterness side.
Okay.
And
And so from the kit, the Gilead, do you have the Gilead?
is that in the kit?
Yeah, it was on the
Okay.
kit from the weekend. It's a little
Yeah.
tiny bottle, but still
Yeah.
it's enough for this. You can take long, slow, deep breaths with that. I mean, Gilead is literally for fleshing out lower emotions. And sometimes I'll just do inhalations, but then if you want to make it stronger, you have a couple of choices. One is to do the arms and the legs.
Okay.
The other one is to do the sex chakra. You can go up to the heart, the throat, but a lot of times if you hit the sex chakra, it is the lowest chakra associated still with the emotional body. And it's where some of this really cooks and gets going. You know what I mean? And then eventually it moves up into the solar plexus and then, affects other areas. So if you use that, it can be helpful. The other thing that's helpful with anger is things like different chamomiles, like, Roman, Cape chamomile, German chamomile.
Okay.
Those a lot of times will calm down the anger. The anger is parts of the body that are agitated, and sometimes what happens as you're calming everything down is some of that will kind of bubble up that is completely unconscious and really not even from the psyche. It's a lot of it is from the body, but it's coming up to be kind of like processed. And then it doesn't always make it somewhere because, then it's a little bit agitating. So the Gilead will clear it out. The other thing you can do is put the mugwort on the joints, and it's still the stuff will still come up, but it will flush out like really quickly. Like it will be like, oh, I'm feeling some anger, but I'm gonna go for a walk. It's almost literally kind of like that. And so if you ever like processing a lot of lower emotions, working the mugwort on the joints is really, really super good.
Right.
Sometimes like when it just doesn't seem like it's stopping or things need to be calmed down, instead of mugwort on the joints, I'll go through and use something like vetiver or spikenard on the joints. And the reason being there is you're just calming down the peripheral nervous system, and it just kind of calms the body down somewhat, the emotional body.
Okay.
And so usually that's all you kind of need is to go through and clean that up. So Gilead or some chamomiles, and then some mugwort on the arms and legs. And if that's not cutting it, then switch over to vetiver or spikenard. And from the kit the weekend, you have the vetiver, so you can just dab some on and just rub it on the joints and call it good. But do it daily. Do it daily until things kind of subside. Like again, when I'm doing really deep purifications and things, because that's what happens when you do deep purifications. It's no rhyme or reason, it just starts coming up. I do a thing where I treat the arms and the legs and the feet. I rub a bunch of spikenard on the feet and use the Gilead on the sex chakra, and then whatever comes up, it's almost like you just kind of watch it come up and out. And so give that a shot. And if that's not clearing it up, shoot us something and let us know. But shouldn't last that long. But and then also remember the thing that we did on the very last thing on Saturday with the cerebral spinal fluid, the Cape Snowbush.
Okay.
Remember that little section? You can always do that as well.
Okay.
Does
this correlate with? I noticed the tops of my ears were hot. Today the palms.
That's just the energy moving up. Yeah. That's just the energy moving up. Yeah.
Large toes.
It'll hit the jaws. It'll hit the ears. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Because the kidneys are tied to the Ming Men, and so a lot of times when you have these lower emotions, it's taking that and trying to move it up to transmute it. And so sometimes you'll start to feel like tension in the jaws will overactivate a little bit, or your ears will get a little hot, or you'll start to have buzzing in the ears, or you'll even have your ears feel like a little bit clogged. That's almost always something kidney related, and energetically it's Ming Men, which is energy shooting up.
What is it about the that's useful to know. What is it about the tips of the big toes? What's taking place there when they get hot? Just the tips.
Reflexology, I want to say that's like the top of the head, but whenever I see like the tips of like a digit getting a little bit inflamed or irritated, I usually go to that it's most likely like a nerve ending. And so, like say this is your foot, you have the bones that are in the foot, like kind of pinch in between the metatarsals so that you're getting into those muscles in there. You can still use the vetiver ointment or like a chamomile, something that's antispasmodic and soothing. Traditionally I've used chamomile for this.
As an ointment apply it.
Ointment, neat, kind of doesn't matter. Just like get it in, like put it on the fingertips themselves or the tips of the toes, but then get a little bit in between the bones in the foot and kind of rub it in a little bit, and still work them with like your fingers, like you're kind of pinching. Pinch it, hold it for about like 3 to 5 seconds, and then move a little bit and pinch it again.
Okay.
And then again in just like 3 to 5 seconds, no more than a count of 10, and then move it and then move it. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to open up the bones between, or the muscles between the bones
Mm,
on the foot to allow the nerves to fire more appropriately.
okay.
Most likely it's a problem that's kind of slowly happening as it's coming down your leg and you're not feeling it to the tips of the toes, but still start with the foot and just start working your way back up.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then go Sahajananda, then Robin, then Ralph.
Hey.
Hey there. I have a friend who is having knee pain. And she said that her chiropractor told her, I'm looking up what she wrote to me. I just want to make sure I get it right. She has tendonitis in her knee. She said there's no joint problem. The joint is stable.
Okay.
And that there's popping sounds in the meniscus. And it's painful when she, tries to sit on her heels. And she said that she got it from doing too many squats at the gym.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So I'm going to guess that the knee pain is on the side of her knee.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the issue is even though she's having knee pain, it's actually, I'll agree with the chiropractor and say, not that that matters, but it is a type of tendonitis, but that it's not the tendon that is like in and around the knee, like as the joint, but it's actually the big tendon that runs along the side of the leg, like from like kind of like your hip, and then it runs all the way down the side of the leg, and then eventually comes down into the knee area, and then kind of starts to contribute to like the kneecap. So it sounds like she's having a little bit of a tracking issue with the kneecap, which is tied to this muscle being, or this tendon being tight, which actually happens in women more than men because of the structural anatomy. It's a little bit, women are a little bit more predisposed to this injury. And the key is to unwind this IT band. It's short for iliotibial band.
Yeah.
But it's basically a big tendon. It's the biggest tendon in the body. It runs just down the side of your leg. But the problem is you'll feel it in the knee, but the issue is up higher, right? And when it's bad, it's like even if you put your hand on the side of the knee and then have them move it, like it feels like something's like clicking or popping. And it's the way that the tendon and sheath are moving in the joint. And what happens is, like, if this is the kneecap and it's supposed to be this way, with iliotibial band syndrome, it actually starts to rotate like this. And so it's almost like, instead of going like this, it's like this, it starts to actually rotate the kneecap. And so the goal is to relax the quadricep, which is the front part of the thigh, but more on the outside, and then treat that outer tendon. So again, marjoram would work, pepper in the pepper supreme, like that version, viscosity, all of that would be really, really super good. Part of what you're doing with the peppers and the pepper supreme and the viscosity is you're increasing circulation, you're reducing spasm, and you're thinning the viscosity of the lymph in the area. So it allows for more fluid movement in the area, which allows for the fascia to release. And so I would put that on neat, like just down from like her hip, just several drops along the side of her leg, and then all the way down to the side of the knee, and at least once a day, but even twice a day if possible, like morning and night. And keep in mind that it is a tendon issue, and so sometimes tendon issues can take a little bit to unwind. But that should get it. If it's usually with like an athlete, like if they were a runner, a tennis player, a basketball player, a cyclist, triathlete, something like that, where they're doing a lot of repetitive motion with something like that, It can happen with people who are meditating down in the lotus posture or sitting in Indian style, however, that can also aggravate it quite substantially. I usually will step up. I still do the same treatment, but I give them some Shazandra internally, which helps to hydrate the fascia and help increase the release of the tissue from the inside out. It's not great for like acute treatment, but when you're dealing with a chronic issue, and I would say this problem before it was causing her pain was there for probably quite a while. Like it's something that just doesn't pop up like quickly. You know what I mean? So the issue is the women's hips are a little bit wider for childbearing, and so the legs come in at like a sharper angle, and because of that the IT band can get stretched more due to that. And so women tend to develop the tibial band syndrome more so than men. And then if there's history of like wearing high heels and things like that, that will also contribute to the issue. But if you go through and you treat the IT band over a period of time, it usually unwinds and goes away unless there was a lot of repetitive motion, like say with running, cycling, tennis, where you're running real hard and then stopping. That can be real hard, or like you said, like a lot of squatting. Sometimes in martial arts, they'll have this issue when they're having to do that standing posture that's like a semi-squat. And so, like if, like with athletes, a lot of times I treat them through, they're still getting treatment for it and they're still usually training. So it takes a little bit longer that way, but they stay kind of functional. It's probably best if they can let it rest for a little bit while you're doing the treatment. But if they don't want to, it still will work. It just takes a little longer. Like that's the trade-off. And so, yeah, that's what I would do. And I would say if she wears high heels a lot, probably just refrain from high heels for a little while. But she can go back to high heels later. What's that?
She's not a high heel wearer.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So as far as the 3 that you gave me, so she should do marjoram, pepper supreme, viscosity, and all do those neat, like one at a time.
I would probably just like marjoram would probably help, but I would probably do either the pepper or the viscosity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Wow. Well, thank you very much.
You're so welcome. That is the quickest way without having to do like manipulation on the leg. That is the quickest way that I know of how to go through and treat it. Sometimes, like in really extreme cases, I'm going back to like runners and cyclists. If it's just not responding, what I would do is do what do you call that, a poultice, like when they heat it, and like a poultice, like where you heat the herb up and then you put it on the body and then put something warm on top of it. Is that what that's called, a poultice? And do it like mid-thigh, but on the side. So you have them lay on their side and then pile up, and you use the herb lobelia.
Okay.
And you do that, and like a single treatment or 2 will knock it out. I usually still treat it with the pepper and the viscosity for a while, but in extreme cases where it was somebody like athletic and they were needing to perform, we need to pull out the big guns. I mean, that poultice is going to cost probably 20 or 30 bucks of just herb to do it proper. And so, if they're in pain, it makes it worth it. But usually we try to handle it other ways first. But I can talk you through that if we need to go that route. But usually the pepper will knock it out. But in extreme cases, there's still things that can be done.
Great. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Again. Thank you.
And then go ahead, Robin, then Ralph.
Hey, Robin.
Sorry, trying to find my mute, unmute. Hi, Craig. Hi, Sam. First of all, I want to thank you totally for the human design oils. They are,
Oh, how did you like those?
oh my God, I spent 2 hours this morning just doing my profile. It was
Oh, good.
incredible. It was totally an incredible frequency bath. Just amazing. So I'm super
Yeah,
excited
they're
about
very
that.
strong.
They're
very
so strong, Greg. They're so strong.
Yeah.
So thank you. And, you know, I want to connect with you about around some of that separately. But last night I was at a gathering and I walked into a screen door.
Okay.
And it was almost like a whiplash, you know,
Yeah.
and my neck, my spine, I've got a kind of a pinched nerve at a little below, maybe, you know, a little below C7, something. I just like, wham, I walked straight into that screen.
Did you fall or anything, or you just kind
I
of
didn't fall. I didn't fall, but my face got a big face. It was like a face plant skiing or something. A total face plant.
So the thing that I would do is galbanum internally, or at least on the wrist, and then black cumin internally. I would put marjoram on the spot. So for a couple of days, I'd treat it like a sprain or a strain, you know, even though it's, you know, who knows, but like still I'd treat it like a sprain or a strain. And you can just put the marjoram on neat in the area or with a little tiny bit of like lotion or massage oil. The other thing that I would do is, you did the weekend or no?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
I did.
So the digestive calm, like rub it on your abdomen as well. Because anytime you have an injury or something that's even mildly traumatic or is like a shock to the body, the first thing the body does is the tension in the gut tightens up as well as the throat. And that will actually relax the smooth muscle of the digestive tract and the respiratory tract. And so I would do that, put the marjoram on that area, few drops of galbanum on the wrist, and take some black cumin internally, and probably within 3 or 4 days, unless something kind of got a little bit more badly injured, that usually will knock it out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. But if it's, well, we'll be talking in the next day or two. So
yep, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I had all these great things from this weekend. I'm like, what do I use?
Yeah, I know.
What do I slather all over me? I mean, the weekend was so powerful. It kind of left me skinless a little bit, like real sensitive to the external world, because I was so open by it.
Yeah, you're so
deep. Yeah, I was shocked.
It's so calming and relaxing that it makes it like your outdoor armor isn't as strong as it used to be for a little bit, you know, because everything gets calmed down. Yeah.
And I'm usually, you know, I'm big on the go deep into samadhi kind of thing, and not like let's go to the physical. But wow, going to the physical really led to a profound opening. So thank you.
Good.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Ralph. And then I do have a chat. And then we have some more, Letty, and we'll go continue. So.
Hey, Ralph.
Hey, Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Question for you on the blue healers, the blue oils. Are those typically in blue bottles?
No, no. A lot of times, if it's in glass, we tend to use amber bottles. But honestly, these days, supply chain issues, I shoot for amber first, and then I switch over to whatever I can get my hands on.
Okay.
You know,
all right.
But some of them we were putting in like the special like plastic. You know, what is that? BPA. You know, the plastic that doesn't leach or whatever. Yeah. And so so those are usually clear. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In reviewing classes, like I've got the old psychic attack class and the abandonment class that you did.
Sure.
In going back through the segments, some of those segments are pages long. Like it'll say, you know, segment 4, and it's like 3 or 4 different pages in a row.
Okay. Yeah.
When I'm reviewing that, if I go through and I just go through the process, the procedure once, And then, like instead of where you might have gone through and looped on the procedure two or more times.
Right.
So if I'm doing it for a review, can I just go through it once and get the
Oh yeah,
effect?
totally.
Okay.
In fact, in the early days, that's all we did is we would only go through it once, but
Mhm.
we want to kick it up a notch. And so just to be clear with like the psychic protection class, whatever we called it, what do we call it? The psychic protection or
Yeah, psychic attack and quartz.
something. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Right.
That first half of the booklet that we did on Saturday up to metamorphosis is
Yeah.
all about the cleanup. Right. So like if there's like stress, if there's, situations that you're dealing with, or you've been in situations where people have been adversarial with you, or you're just in a group where you go in and it might not even be directed at you, but it's a little bit toxic feeling. That first half of the booklet is all about cleaning it up. And then the second half, after it's marked metamorphosis, that's all about refining the body so that in the future, it doesn't have that impact on you.
Okay.
So if you're in the middle of cleaning it up, you can even just do that first half.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're just probably next Tuesday submitting a thing for the with the newsletter, like the newsletter that comes out on Monday nights.
Right.
I'm going to give like little short versions of like how to do a quick thing for psychic attack, how to do a quick thing for certain emotions, how to do a quick thing, like not the big, advanced thorough thing that we're doing, but just like, here's some quick fixes.
Yeah.
And so that's actually coming. And can you make it till Tuesday or do you need it before then?
I can make it till Tuesday, no
Okay,
problem. I've got
we'll
this,
post it on Tuesday.
and I'm
Yeah.
thankfully in a position where I can, if I have to take a whole afternoon to do a whole big long thing, I just go through it and don't take the breaks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. A lot of times you can fire through a lot of it, just without me talking and just being like one pointed. You can fire through a lot of it in about 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. That answers my questions. Thanks.
Good. Good for you.
That's a great segue for this one. I have a few classes that I've been doing across several days. Right now I'm working on chakras. You said we can do them across several days, but is it okay if I skip days?
Yeah.
It's taking me a while. Sometimes I forget and I just don't have time. Sometimes several days go by before I continue my regime.
Yeah, it's completely okay. Yeah.
I have a whole regime I do. I have frankincense or hyssop. I focus on the lungs. I do deep breathing. I push through my, it's a really, she typed in a very nice, thorough protocol. I struggle with anxiety and it was recommended that I use this for about 3 weeks on my regime. I want to make sure this is a good regime and I wonder if I should take an antidepressant for a while to support things. What I'll do is I'll have you email that to me. I'll have Greg look at that and then we'll be able to let you know.
And also let me know when you send in that email, is there a situation that's happening? It's like sometimes anxiety is happening because you are in the middle of some sort of difficulty, or is it a anxiety that you're just having because the world's on fire? You know what I mean? And so give me an idea of what's up, and we'll try to tailor the treatment specifically to you the best we can. So.
And then go ahead, Letty, then Shraddha.
Hey, Letty.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Sam. How are y'all doing?
Hey. How are you?
Good. I was gonna tell Sam that I haven't texted her in a while, but I was gonna tell her I had one of those type of classes where it knocked me out till the evening. I didn't wake up until like midnight. I just remember like briefly waking up, and then I heard you saying like, okay, that was the class, and then y'all left. But it was a good class. Liked it. Thank you.
So there's this old story that like with that. There's this old story of back in the early days with Master Cha. He was teaching a class in person, and there was this priest in the class, And, you know, he was leading a meditation. I think it was the meditation on the soul, or, you know, achieving oneness. And the priest felt like totally like conked out and fell asleep. And in that meditation, Master Choa says, continue with what you're doing, you know, towards the end of the meditation, you know, because he has you doing Om and visualizing a flame and, you know, all these things. And so the priest is asleep and he just kind of starts to wake up. And then Master Choa goes, continue with what you're doing. And he's like, ah. And he just like conked right back out again. Like, I could do that. I could sleep.
That's funny. Yeah, that's kind of what I did. Continued all the way till midnight.
Right.
It was actually a text that woke me up, and I was kind of glad that my son texted me because I really had to get up to bring my car in. So it was kind of good that he did text me, but it was like literally till midnight. It was crazy. But anyhow,
How did your body feel after all that?
really good. Yes, really good. Really rested. The only thing, like with these couple of days here in San Antonio, we've had a lot of mold again in the air, like a lot of mold.
Yeah.
And so I am struggling with a little bit of a headache, not really much, but it's not, you know, it's not really big of a deal. So I am using the mold relief, and then also the quercetin, also that as well to kind of help.
Yeah.
But I had a question on something else. I have a coworker that asked me a question. This coworker and her sister are both struggling with memories of domestic violence. Like growing up, they saw like their mom getting beat up by the dad.
Yeah.
And as now that they're older, like it's affecting them a lot more, and they're also having like certain triggers. So I'm just wondering, like, what part of the psychological healing book would you recommend, or what would you recommend? Because she says, I wish I could like just erase that memory. I said, well, we really can't erase that memory, but we can at least work on removing the emotional part of it, so that you're,
Do they have children?
One of them does, and the other one doesn't.
Okay. The one that has a child, like how old's the child?
Honestly, I just know she has
Like
kids. I don't know.
Like little kid, like teenager.
Probably like little kids, yes.
Little kid. Okay. So sometimes like when they've had the history of seeing that when they were young, and then they have children, it can be triggering, you know, because now they're in the opposite side, and the weight of what they saw kind of sinks in even deeper. And so sometimes what happens in parenthood is you realize what happened, and it's like, you know, what the F, like, you know, it really hits you, like what was going on. And so the one with the child sometimes can actually even be a little bit more triggered than somebody who doesn't have a child. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's less, it's just, it can be an extra trigger is what I'm trying to say. And so I at first I would keep it really simple. I would have them inhale helichrysum, especially if it's when the thoughts or the feelings come up, you know, because the thing is they experienced trauma back then, that there's a tiny piece of them still stuck in the trauma from back then and now. So they're actually part of the feeling that they're having when they are having the memories or the feelings, is they're re-experiencing the trauma back then, because it's like it gets stuck, you know, like a piece of your psyche gets stuck in that place. The helichrysum will actually help release the trauma and help them move past the trauma. And it's probably not the only thing that we'll do, but for a little while, the helichrysum will be incredibly helpful to anything that was traumatic. And so a lot of times with domestic abuse, sexual abuse, things like that, I usually start off with helichrysum, and then depending on how they do with that, then we start going down whatever path we need to. Sometimes we have to go a little bit deeper in releasing the trauma. Sometimes there might be um, emotional or mental things. Like, for example, they might be incredibly hard on themselves. They might be judgmental of themselves rather than, it depends on when the trauma happened. Like the rule of thumb is that if the trauma happened before the age of 8, even if it's just that they witnessed these traumas, that a lot of times they turn it on themselves, because that's how a child kind of survives. The ego of the child survives at that age, is that it can't be the people who are supposed to be taking care of me, because that means I'm vulnerable in the world and I'm going to die. So it must be something that's me, and I can control that by being better, right? I can be good, I can be whatever. And so if it happened in that time frame, the tendency is they'll keep turning it in on them, because it's what got set in motion at that age. It's not the psyche of the person now that's needing to be healed. It's actually the trauma from back at that age. And so helichrysum is always a good place to start. It's always a super good place to start. It calms all that down. It soothes it all down. You can augment it with tarragon for a little bit, just to calm the emotional body, the mental body. You can have them inhale either threshold or galbanum, just to take the edge off of the pain that they see. And then let them do that for a little while, like probably a month, as much as they want. They can smell them all as much as they want. They can put several drops on the wrists of the helichrysum, or a drop or 2 on the heart. And then after about a month or so, I would have them start doing the same oils, but then start actively recalling the situation and thinking of the traumatic event with their awareness on their heart while they're inhaling the oil. Like, no particular breathing pattern, just recall it, awareness on the heart, inhale. And then when that starts calming down, then the next step, as long as everything is stable, would be to do that whole protocol with the materialization breath in it. But I don't do it right off the bat. Yeah, I mean, they would be okay. It would just be a big shift, really, really quick. And here's the thing. It's not so much about just releasing the emotions. It's like you have to release a little bit and then let the mind adjust, and release a little bit of emotions and then stand back and let the mind adjust. So like what I'm saying is, like, in a way, you're going to use the remedy in the early stage would be helichrysum, a little bit of tarragon, and like a little bit of galbanum or threshold, and some time. Like, not the herb time, just like time to process it. So let them have a little bit of therapy, and then stand back and let them like kind of acclimate to what happened, and then a little bit more like therapy. And so if you give them some oils and you let them play with it, they'll kind of go gung-ho, and then all of a sudden they'll stop for a little bit. That's super normal. Let them have time to acclimate, and then after a little while, it's like, okay, let's do another round, and it goes a little bit deeper. And then at some point, you can take them through a bit of a process, but the mind needs time to adjust, because if you push it too far, too quick, especially when dealing with trauma, it will begin to resist. So you give it like a time to digest, and then you step back into it, and you go, okay, a little bit more treatment, and then time to digest, and then a little bit more treatment, and then time to digest. And after a little bit of that, then after that, you can just go gung-ho. But you almost got to get the mind trained to, like, we're going to be shifting, we're going to be changing. These things are going to go in cycles. So you're not doing it verbally, you're doing it through the experience. But after they've had the experience a few times, then they kind of know what they're grasping, and they can take it a lot deeper. But you almost have to walk them through it and then back off, and then walk them through it and then back off.
Okay, thank you so much.
Does that
Yes,
make sense?
it does make sense. Yeah. And I know one of them ordered, she's been ordering hyssop from you, because I gave her like a little,
another great one.
Yeah, I gave her a little bit, and then once she was out, I gave her your website and all that. So she's been the one that works with me. She's been ordering his stuff because she's been she has a lot of anxiety, and I think it all stems from like just a lot of trauma, childhood memories. And I think she also went through some abuse. She says like she sees like the person, but she sees the person, but she can't put a face to that person who was abusing her.
It was probably a theme. Like it was like there was probably one main perpetrator, but there's a little bit of a theme of that kind of person being around and doing it. So that's the faceless part, is several actors came through in that production, you know what I mean? And so that's super normal for trauma.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
I'll at least just start on the helichrysum and go from there.
Like we were actually, it's ironic that you brought this up, but we were talking about that even just, I think it was early today or last night, that a lot of times when you're really trying to understand something significant, that's an issue or a pattern, something in the psyche that you're it's a thing. It's a thing you're having to address. Part of what happens is, on a very unconscious level, we reproduce it in the external world so that we can interact with it and gain better understanding of it. And it's some people are a little bit aware of it. Most people we're just not aware of it. But it's not that like some people do it and some people don't. We all do it to a certain degree, right? But what happens is that when there's trauma, especially when it was young, there's a little bit of being attracted to those kinds of situations because you're trying to understand, like, what the F happened? Like, what is it? How do I fix it? What is it? And just trying to address it in your head a lot of time isn't enough. So it has to be a little bit tactile. Like you have to be able to like recreate it and start interacting with it. And like, this time I'm going to do this, or this time I'm going to do that. And, it's just a little bit of like investigation on the part of the person. And so what happens over a period of time is you kind of start to resolve it a little bit, and you start to see the pattern, you start to recognize it sooner. And then sometimes you'll even notice that you'll even start helping other people who have the issue, because then it's like you're learning from helping others rather than having it blow up in your face. It's like, well, I can learn from helping other people. And so it's a very soft way of doing it. But when there is that recurring pattern for them, it's not that they're doing something wrong. Like, I always want to make that super clear to the person who's going through it. You're just trying to understand. And the more that you can bring understanding to the situation, the more that situation can change, shift, and actually even go away. And so at first, you're recreating it in the physical world, and then pretty soon it might be that you see patterns in other people, or you might have dreams about it, and the dreams might not even be about you, right? And so it might be that you interacted with somebody and there was that pattern there, you had a dream about it, and you go, something's there, but it was really you're just processing that information. And so dreams are very important for this. Reflection is very important with this. And if they are in a situation where that has happened, where they've recreated the situation a little bit, all that means is that they're still stuck in the trauma state. And this thing with the helichrysum, the tarragon, and like the galbanum or the threshold, like calms that down to allow them to shift out of that. So it's like the crisis is starting to calm down so that they can not have to recreate it physically and just be able to process it more psychologically. So it's actually a really important step to put in motion. Does that make sense?
It does, yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and one of the triggers that what the coworker was telling me that her sister is having is when she sees someone like being unfair to somebody or being mean to somebody. That is
Mhm.
one of the triggers that she gets when she sees
Yeah,
she's.
sure.
Okay, thank you so much, Greg.
You could also add the mugwort to the joints.
Okay,
Yeah, the mugwort to the joints tends to reduce the tendency of being triggered. In real extreme cases, I do mugwort on the joints and spikenard on the feet, but usually the mugwort will knock it out.
okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
You're
Greg.
so welcome. You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Strada, Nanda, and then Channing.
Hello,
Hey, how are you?
trying to get my camera on. I don't know why it's not coming on. Anyway, okay, I have a few questions. One, is there a shelf life for the plant prana oils, like best used by or anything?
The only thing that I would say has like a bit of shelf life is like oils that come from citrus peels. But even that is maybe 2 to 3 years, maybe even a little bit longer. And all that happens is they start to become, all citrus oils that are from the peel, they'll get acidic after probably 3 to 4 years. And so you can still inhale them, but just putting them directly on the skin sometimes can be a little bit irritating to the skin. I mean, citrus oils can be a little bit irritating to the skin in a neat application anyway, but they'll get a little bit more irritating. And so other than that, the shelf life on the oils is actually quite long. And things like rose, like real high-end roses or something like that, it's not that they go bad, it's just after maybe 5-6 years, the top note will start to dissipate. Like you won't smell the top note quite as much. That will even happen if you open and close the bottle quite a bit. And then some oils, like the heavier oils, like spikenard, vetiver, patchouli, aloes wood, even frankincense, myrrh, they actually get better with age. They actually improve with age. And so some of the oils we either age ourselves or I get some things that are actually already aged. Like some of the aloes, like the real high-end aloes, they tend to be about, after they were distilled, they were usually aged 40 to 50 years.
Wow.
So they get better with age. And so for the most part, you have a pretty long shelf life there.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
The last newsletter, you had this wonderful list of special protocol for healing lower emotions. And then in the part 2 of that list, there were some single oils for different emotions.
Yeah, let me look at what I gave you guys, because I have my hand in so many different things. I forget what I put out to you guys. Okay, yes, I see what specific emotions. Yes.
So for the so does that mean follow the protocol for the lower emotions and then work the specific emotions?
That's best. I mean, sometimes if you're dealing with somebody like a family member or something and they don't want to follow a protocol, you can just jump to one of the single ones. But what's going to produce a better result is doing that first part and then jumping to the specific emotions after the fact. But not everybody's going to do it, so then you do what you can.
And then it's like pick one. Like some of them you have 3 listed.
Yeah.
So,
just pick one of them.
And is that an inhale or is that application?
Most times it would be like just inhaling it.
Okay. Because I saw later in the list you said inhalation, and then other places you just said single oil. So I wasn't sure.
Most times if I don't write like take a salt bath or do this, you know, again, like I'm trying to keep it simple for just like people that you might be interacting with, or somebody just wants a quick fix. So I try to keep even the applications really simple. But we're gonna re-release this list a little bit later that has like the way that it's listed, and then under it's going to be like advanced version, you know, and so that will be like either breathing pattern or how to apply it, or you know, layered with some other oils or something like that. But this was just like kind of a quick and easy reference guide for potential emotions that come up.
Yeah, it was an awesome list because I think about like during my day through work, if anxiety
Yeah.
comes up, well, grab
Oh,
my
yeah, yeah,
Jasmine,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or whatever. But then when I have more
Yeah.
time, I could actually follow the protocol. So it's great.
Yeah, and so like the a lot of times when there's multiple things listed, it's because I try to give you choices like of something so that you can pull something from a kit that you have, right? And then the other thing too is, you know, we always want to have a little bit of that spirit of experimentation, of like kind of fine tuning what's going to work best for you. You know, like for example, something might work really well for you for anxiety, and I try it and I'm like, but then I try something else and I was like, oh, this rocks, and I give it to you and you're like, yeah. You know, there's a lot of factors with some of these things, and so you know, it's okay to like explore the one that kind of works for you. Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the list. It's so thorough.
yeah, you're so
Looking forward to have it. And my last question is,
Mhm.
so apparently I have excessive biofilm. I mean, I know everybody's got biofilm, but I've got some really big biofilm. I got really sick last year. I thought it was asthma, and then the next thing I know, like I thought I had COVID, but I didn't. Apparently the biofilm in my bronchioles was so thick that I was just susceptible to just actually like some child virus I got from a kid, respiratory virus. So now periodically I can feel this thickness in my bronchioles,
okay.
and then it'll clear up. And I'm just wondering, is there a protocol to like reduce this biofilm once and for
Yeah.
all?
Okay, let me ask you a couple questions.
Yeah.
Any issues with your digestive tract at all?
Yeah, but apparently from the holistic physician that I went to, it's all about biofilm.
Okay.
Like
What
prior
are
to
your-
last year, I never had any problems with digestion.
Okay. Well, so tell me what the issues are with your digestion.
So you touched on it a lot this weekend. So
Okay.
it feels like right where the stomach and the liver kind of intersect in that
Right.
layer right below the xiphoid process.
Yeah.
Mine kind of can get hard as a rock. I feel like I'm not digesting anything. And I thought it was locked in spasm.
Okay.
The
Gotcha.
physician said it's biofilm.
Yeah. Okay. And how about your eyes? You have dry, itchy eyes at all, or anything like that?
I don't tend to have dry, itchy eyes, but my vision acuity comes and goes. Some days
Okay.
everything's absolutely fuzzy. Some days it's 20/15 precise.
Okay. And dry mouth at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing that I would do is a couple of things. I would say treat this in layers, but the primary thing that I would do would be every day, probably at bedtime, I do 2 to 3 drops of Shizandra. And Shizandra helps transmute water in the body, helps the body use water. And basically what happens is it starts cleaning up the mucous membranes quite substantially, and it helps to moisten the mucous membranes. And then over a period of time, it flushes a lot of things out of all the mucous membranes. I would also probably use something like I would use either a soft form of thyme or like one of the peppers. Like I'd use like probably like thyme linalool or thyme thuyinol, benchmark thyme, something like that, or like pink pepper, black pepper, pepper supreme, and just a lot of long, slow, deep breaths with that. But Schizandra would be first. And so if you can do it with the oils, the Schizandra oil, or you can go to the health food store and pick up capsules. I would do it in a capsule rather than in a tincture. And I would probably take, like I'd start with 3 capsules a day, and I'd probably work up to like 6 or 8 capsules a day. And you'll probably do it for a couple of months. You know, you should start feeling relief. I mean, hard to say, but like maybe in about a week. You know, you'll probably notice something in a day or two, but like in a week or two, you start to notice it. But you still want to really continue with it. For the old Chinese medicine version of this would be to treat it with pretty big dosages of that herb for 100 days. And so, you know, I don't think you probably need to do that extreme, but I would do this for a while and flush that out quite substantially. The Schizandra will also help you sleep, but the other thing that I would be concerned about is, you know, if it continues, get checked to see if there's any potential for like markers for autoimmune issues. There are certain autoimmune issues that are just directed at the mucous membranes. They're very treatable, but these days with like the foods and everything, there's a lot of autoimmune issues that float around because of the way foods are grown and everything these days. And so, you know, if it resolves itself, I would say, don't worry about it. But if it seems to be something that's like a little bit ongoing, there's we always want to rule out Sjogren's, you know, which is just a thing with the mucous membranes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, like the Schizandra should knock it out, but you know, given stress levels these days, and given the way foods are grown and supply chain issues and everything like that, I wouldn't read a whole lot into it until you've treated it for a while. And then if it gets better, then call it good. And if it doesn't, we can step it up a notch. But a lot of stressors have been put on everybody's body over the last 2 to 3 years. And so, by the way, did you ever have COVID or no?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, I that's probably pretty straightforward. Like between the Schizandra and then something just to increase the blood supply to the mucous membranes. You know, you could do Moroccan thyme. That would still be okay. I honestly, the more that I think about it, I think I would do probably pink pepper or black pepper, to be honest with you.
Pink pepper or black pepper?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
soft. It's not too overstimulating to the immune system. It's antispasmodic. It's strengthening. It strengthens the basic chakra. I like that one for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
so much.
yeah. I think if you just basically hydrate the mucous membranes, a lot of times it resolves itself.
Yeah, I can drink water by the gallons all day and I still feel dry.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. We don't really have a reference for it in the Western medicine, but it's a issue where the body's not transmuting water into something that's usable. Like the water just like kind of almost like passes through you. Like your body's not really like harnessing the water, and it just happens. Like it could be after an illness, it could be after some stress, it could be actually after some poor sleep, it could be for all kinds of reasons. And the Schizandra actually helps to resolve that issue. And so that's basically what you're doing, is you're going through and making it so that when you drink a bunch of fluid, that you're like, I feel my thirst has been quenched, you know, like I don't feel thirsty. And so because what's happening is not only is it you're not feeling quenched, but your body is also throwing off some of that water into the body tissue. And then eventually that turns into a thing where it starts to generate like mucus. And so it's actually a relatively common problem. And so what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Maryland.
Okay, so issues with mold or anything like that? Do you have allergies?
Oh my gosh, yes, tons of
Yeah,
mold.
it's honestly, it's probably allergies. Like it's not allergies causing it, it's the byproduct of allergies. Even if you weren't aware of the allergies, it's actually probably just part of your allergic response.
Yeah.
And so I just go through and clean it up. I mean, that sounds pretty right on the allergies. And then, you know, in those areas that there's a lot of moisture and things like that, and then trees and mold is quite the issue. So it's probably forget what I said about the autoimmune thing. Just treat the allergies when they flare up and go through, hydrate the mucous membranes, do the black pepper, and probably call it good.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And if it's not resolving, let me know, because there's stronger things we can do. I just don't want to load you with a list of things to do. Like, let's treat it and we'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
And then go ahead, Channing.
Hey, Channing.
Hi, I'll get this question in as quickly as I can. I had, I developed a cold on, I think it's a cold. Actually, I think it is a cold, not the flu. I started getting a sore throat on Thursday, Greg, and then I thought this is interesting, and I thought it might have been allergies. But anyways,
It possibly could. Sometimes things start off as allergies and then turn into a cold or flu. Like that actually is very possible.
So I haven't had a cold or a flu in like 10, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
The last time that I remember, it's been a long time. So my symptoms are pretty much a headache. I resolved that. And then I had a sore throat and I resolved that, but I'm just feeling just slightly run down. And then I'm losing my voice a little bit. But today I lost my sense of smell. Yesterday, I went in to just get a COVID test just to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
I also did some muscle testing too. I'm not muscle testing as COVID, but I wanted just to rule it out. I'm not
What did the COVID test say?
PCR.
No, but did you get the results yet, or?
I just went in yesterday. It's going to take about 2 to 4 days because I did the PCR. So the lab is going to take a little bit longer, but I wanted it to be more thorough.
How are your sinuses?
I can breathe fine. I'm just a little bit run down. I have lost my voice, but the biggest thing I've noticed is I've lost my sense of smell, and I lost a little bit of my sense of taste. I can still taste some food, but here's what I can't even smell my Venus. It smells like nothing.
Ugh.
I know. That's when I knew. I'm like,
I mean, it sounds a little COVID-ish. It doesn't mean that it's COVID, but it sounds COVID-ish. You know,
I know.
Like sometimes sinus infections and things like that can be very similar in nature, and so it's, you know, we've had people who had looked like every symptom of COVID, and they went and got tested, nothing, and then people who had symptoms that looked like it was something else and it came back as COVID. So like, you know, I kind of treat it as if, but at the same time look at that it's possibly, you know, because other things still happen. Like there's other flus, there's other colds, there's allergies.
Right.
And so I don't want to always be like, oh, it's COVID. It's, you know, it's a potential for any of it. So let's treat it regardless of what the diagnosis ends up being. They're all in the same kind of arena. So I'd have you take some form of time. What kind of time do you have?
I have Moroccan red, I think red gum. I have a few time. Corsican, is Corsican time one of them?
No. Do you have a time Thuyanol or a time benchmark time linalool?
I don't have those three that you just listed.
Okay,
but
let's just switch over to red time. Like have you take a couple of drops of red time, put it in water, drink it. And do you happen to have Monarda?
I don't. It's in my shopping
Okay,
cart.
that's fine. So a couple drops of the thyme and drink it. And let's see.
How many times a day am I drinking the thyme?
Let's have you do twice a day for the next 3 days. After that, go down to once a day. Let's have you put several drops of bay laurel on your wrist. I do a gargle with bay laurel.
I've been doing that every day. Yep, it's
And
helped.
then a couple of drops of bay laurel internally as well.
With water, okay?
Yeah. And then will your daughter rub some oil on your back a little bit?
No, but I can do it myself.
Okay. It's best if you can get it on and along the spine, but about like 25 or 30 drops of bay laurel like on your back.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. And so inhale some basil. Like just do lots of inhalations of the basil.
Okay, just inhale basil.
Yeah, so do all those other things, but the basil, like we want to fight off what is potentially there, but also the basil helps to reduce inflammation that's in the mucous membranes of the sinuses, reduces some of the spasm, and still has an antiviral, antibacterial effect. And so it also helps stimulate some of the body's processes to go and offset this. And the issue also sometimes is like physical stress energy sometimes will get like stuck in the sinuses, and it's actually part of what causes the inflammation in the sinuses. And so the basil diminishes the stress energy that's stuck in the sinuses and helps fight off the infection, reduces the inflammation. It's also what helps bring back the sense of smell and the sense of taste. And so you're kind of getting a whole bunch of things covered with just hitting these things like that. And then as soon as you get your test back, please let me know.
Okay, I will do that. Do you want me to get the Monarda as well? It might be just good to have, right?
It's good to have. It would be one of the, I would still have you do all the same things that you're doing and just add Monarda to it. But
internally?
Yeah, it's got to be internal.
Got it.
Yeah, like a couple of drops a day. Yeah.
I definitely say that last weekend's class really helped me like get back on track, just feeling wise.
Good.
So, okay, I'll do that. That's great. I was just so
if
bummed.
the symptoms increase or anything crazy happens, please let us know.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Yeah, I was really bummed I can't smell Venus. Now I know I'm really. That's a deal breaker.
Yeah, no joke.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Take care. So I think we're going to have to jump over to the other practice real quick. And so join us if you can. What are we doing in particular?
It's open to anyone. It's the angel practice again.
Oh, angel
this
practice.
week.
So everybody just skip on over to the other one. We have another link. And so she's posting that and we're getting started here in the next few seconds.
And I just posted it here in the chat. It's also right there in your newsletter. So come join us.